This is Guided by Faith. I'm your host, Jay Holland, and we are really walking through the month of July. We are sadly, maybe as you start to see the school year approaching, getting closer and closer, but hey, you still got a few weeks of break left if you're a student, and I hope you are using it well. I know you're using it at least partially well because you're tuning in to Guided by Faith. You're investing in your walk with Jesus each day. So I'll try to make today very worthwhile for you since you are taking the time and effort to do it, and I'm really proud of you. Proverbs 24. We're in Proverbs chapter 24 today. We're going to look at one single verse from Proverbs 24. That's Proverbs 24:16. For the righteous falls 7 times and rises again, but the wicked stumble in times of calamity. So the righteous fall 7 times and rise again, but the wicked stumble in times of calamity. I think that this is kind of a great thing to talk about, something we don't like to talk about a lot, but something we all experience, and that's failure. And we oftentimes, I feel like your generation, so I'm a couple generations removed from you at this point, and something that researchers have noticed, something that I've noticed, that other youth leaders have noticed, you're in a generation that is kind of oftentimes lives in fear of failure. And because you're afraid, you don't try things as much. So some of this has been good because your generation, the Gen Alpha and the younger Gen Z, tend to do less risky things. But they tend to do less risky things that are important as well, whether that's try out for positions at school, try out for a job, even learning to drive. A lot of kids are delaying it later and later. And these are just symptoms, I think, of fear of failure. But we need to realize that failure is just a natural part of life, and failure is actually a pretty important growth part of life if it's properly evaluated. I learned recently, and this is really cool. This just kind of helps retrain your perspective to not be afraid of failure. I was listening to this podcast that was talking about people who have become masters of foreign languages. And this was really interesting because these are people who in high school or in college took Spanish or French or German or Japanese and did mediocre or quite poorly. And now they're picking up languages like crazy. And there were a couple of characteristics of these people. Number one is instead of going to school and taking a class, they moved to the place and immersed themselves in having to speak the language where they didn't really have a choice. And number two, and this was what was really interesting for me, they had goals like this. Instead of saying, I'm going to do this every day until I get 25 things right, they would say, I'm not done practicing my language today until I make 100 mistakes. Well, that's pretty crazy because making 100 mistakes means that you have to really normalize failure. But what this does for them is it lets them be willing to try riskier things because they're not afraid of failing. Failing is a part of the process. And in our house, that's one of the things when we have dinner together now, in our conversations, we talk about highs, lows, what did you learn today, and what have you failed at this week? And so we have tried to just normalize that failing, you know what, I'm going to be trying things and I'm not always going to succeed at them. And we, sometimes even clap. If somebody shares their failure, we just kind of giggle and laugh and we clap because we want to normalize that as a growing human, I'm going to fail at things and failure is not that big a deal. And it's the same thing in your spiritual walk. Our goal is perfection. Our goal is to be like Jesus. And it turns out that we are not yet perfect and we are not yet fully like Jesus. And so in my pursuit of Jesus, I'm going to fail on a regular basis. And I can't let that fear of failure paralyze me. And I can't let the fact of failure demoralize me where I don't try again. Some people would say, well, why would I even try to live a pure life when I'm just going to keep messing up or failing? Because purity paves the way for intimacy. Purity is the pathway to intimacy with God. And so not as I am perfect in my purity, but as I pursue purity, I feel open and free in my relationship with others and in my relationship with God. Well, why would I share the gospel when I've just been so rejected when I share it? because the process of sharing, you have no idea what's actually going on inside somebody, and you're charged before God. Your obedience is sharing, not in the decision that somebody makes. You can't change anybody's heart. You can only share with them. But I've also learned that in my sharing, I'll screw it up, I'll mess it up, and then I'll be like, oh, I messed up because I didn't know how to answer this question. But now that I've been through that, I can research, I can study, I can pray, and the next time I'm in this situation, I'll be much better equipped. So I'll review how I failed. I'll imagine when I'm in that process again, how will I change it? And I grow through the process. We want to be people that fail forward, not people that fear failure, not people that live in the failure, but people that fail forward. Failure does not define you. Getting back up defines you. Failure does not define you. Getting back up defines you. Following Jesus does not mean you won't fall. It means you won't stay down. And so as you evaluate just this one verse today, Proverbs 24:16, maybe you need to memorize it if you're somebody that's prone to be terrified of failure. Remember, following Jesus doesn't make it where you're not going to fall. Following Jesus means that you're not going to stay down. Where are you stuck because of fear of failure or because of paralysis of existing failure? How do you repent of that, get back up, and walk forward and learn from your mistakes? Submit it to the Lord, see what he has to teach you, and I look forward to hearing from you what God's teaching you in your life. Have an awesome day, and I'll be back tomorrow.